Oh, so this year, or 2023, so last year, for Christmas, I received the Daemon Primarch Angron model, which I was super happy to get, because last year, as you know, I finished, over the course of the year, mind you, the Daemon Primarch Magnus model, which I super loved. I really loved that entire process. But when I got Angron this time, what I wanted to do was take less than a year to get through it, because my Knights collection took me a year to work on as well as Magnus. So that's 2 years of painting for basically what ended up being 4 models. So what I wanted to do this time was set myself a goal of being done with Angron by the middle of February, and I've achieved it. And all I want to do today is take you through the process, all the different things that I did to get to where I wanted to be.
Now, the benefit of having painted Magnus already means that I've got a pretty good idea of how to do red flesh. And what I did the first time whenever I did Magnus was just painted things purple, and then I layered up from there. But then what I did this time instead was to use much less bright red in the accents. So whenever I got the purple done initially, I then did some Carroburg crimson shading, which then brought out a bit more darkness in the purple. What I did over the top was just use some Wordbearer's red and then layer some Evil Sun Scarlet over the top. It's a super easy job in terms of getting just that initial detail down on the skin and the sort of living parts of this model. And pretty quickly it started to come together in a really cohesive way, and I super enjoyed just that effect that I got right off the bat with it, and it applied even right down to the sort of scaly parts like Angron's tail, which came out really well as well. And then what I did was darken down the wings even further to get rid of some of the excess purple so that it was just an accent. And with that accent and done, I think I got a really cool effect in the end, because after that basically I didn't really touch the wings again other than to do some of the detailing on the blades, the claws, bones and things like that. And what I wanted to do early on in this project was try and get the face detailed as early as possible so I could keep myself working towards that end goal, so that I knew what level of detail I was aspiring to the whole way. So I started painting the eyes and the details and the layering on the skin really quickly. The face was really just a matter of simply layering on reds and shading and layering and shading until I got this really good skin effect. And what I started to end up with was something I was really pleased with, as you can see here in an early version. And to take a step back and look at how I did those bone effects, it was really simple matter of getting just a simple bone white paint and shading it using Seraphim Sepia and a bit of Agrex Earthshade. I did this over all the different bones and spines and spurs coming out of the skin and the armour all over the model, and I feel like that level of consistency that I got from doing them all at the same time was a much better effect than if I'd done it over a series of months in different painting sessions like I had with Magnus. And I did this with the axe as well, because Angron's axe has a bunch of inlaid skulls in it, and I felt like having that same effect again would be a little bit of consistency, but it would also break up the metallic effects over the rest of that part of the model too. And I'll do this effect with every time I need to do a bone effect. I'll just shade over a white, something really light and pale with some Seraphim Sepia and Agrex Earthshade, and that usually brings things out really nicely. What I did then with the armour was layer on some Balthazar gold, and then on top of that I layered on some Retributor armour, Gehenna's gold, and some Auric armour as well, just in a bit of dry brushing to bring out some edges and some polished shining faces of the armour itself. But while I was waiting for the metallic effects to dry, what I did was move on to the base, paint some red, yellow and orange all over it, just as brightly and as thickly as possible. And then I used some Mordant Earth effect paint to get a nice cracked black lava and sort of basalt effect over the top, which didn't turn out perfectly. I never really think that this stuff works just as well as it's supposed to, but when you chip little pieces of it off, you get some of that effect that you're looking for in the first place anyway. Then once I was finished doing the shining kind of effect on the armour, I layered on some of the Dirty Down verdigris effect that I wanted to use over all the different gold parts. And basically all you do is you paint that on, wait for it to dry, and you use wet brushes or wet cotton buds like I did here, just to remove the major part of it, so you leave in the dirt and the wear in the recesses. And I did it with the rust effect and all the silvery parts of the metal as well. So you've got 2 different kinds of wear and 2 different kinds of that chaos effect on the 2 different types of metal in the art of the model. And then I simply used some Blood for the Blood God effect paint to get the effect that Angron has been tearing through people basically as he's in this kind of little diorama. And realistically, after that was done, there wasn't a huge amount else to do, just detailing some of the bones, some of the rocks and stuff like that, and that was it. I'm really glad that I took this simpler approach to this model, because I just didn't want to spend an entire year trying to constantly remember where I left off. And I think that worked really well, because there's such a good sense of consistency, and there were no parts of this model all I had to double back and try and do again. And I'm really pleased that it worked out that way, because it means that I feel I was much more connected to the final outcome. And considering that this was done so much faster than than I did Magnus, I'm really, really pleased with the overall effect. It doesn't look rushed at all. It doesn't, well, I didn't rush it, but it doesn't look like it was done faster from what I think, and I'd love to do a comparison at some point. If you're interested in seeing a comparison between the two to see what the effects look like, I will do that, but I would love to really sit down and have a look at just how different they turned out based on using those different approaches of mainly time.